In the winter of 190 BC, two worlds collided on the plains of Asia Minor. One bore the ghost of Alexander, the other carried the future of the West. Between them stretched a battlefield that would decide which dream lived and which turned to dust. This was not just another battle. It was the end of an age. His name was Antiochus III. They called him the Great. At 41, he ruled an empire stretching from the Mediterranean to the borders of India. Heir to the Seleucid throne, grandson of Alexander's generals, he believed destiny had chosen him to restore what Alexander built, and for 20 years he almost succeeded. He had walked where Alexander walked, crossed the Hindu Kush, reached India, brought back 150 elephants, conquered Egypt's armies, reclaimed the eastern provinces. City after city bowed before him. Men whispered his name with the same breath they spoke of Alexander. The empire was reborn, or so it seemed, but pride makes men blind. In 122 BC, Antiochus crossed into Greece. He believed Rome weak, divided. He listened when the Aetolians begged for his aid. He ignored those who warned him. Rome was no longer the republic that once begged Alexander's mercy. Rome had changed, and Antiochus did not see it. At Thermopylae, the place where 300 Spartans once held the Persian tide, Antiochus met the legions. His army shattered in a single afternoon. He fled back across the sea to Asia. His fleet burned at Myonnesus. The Aegean turned red. Still he refused to yield. He gathered his forces at Sardis. If Rome wanted war, war they would have. Rome sent two brothers to finish what they started. Lucius Cornelius Scipio, the consul, led the army in name, but his older brother commanded in truth. Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus, the man who crushed Hannibal at Zama, the legend who never lost a battle. Now he marched east for the first time. Rome was coming to Asia, and it would not leave. From every corner of his realm, Antiochus summoned his strength. Janissaries from Syria marched beside Galatian warriors. Cataphracts in scales of iron rode with Arab camel archers. From Media came horsemen who could shoot from the saddle. From the east, war elephants larger than any Rome had seen. 70,000 men gathered at Magnesia. It was magnificent, terrifying, unstoppable. At the heart of this army stood 16,000 men who made emperors tremble. The Macedonian Phalanx, 18-foot pikes bristling like iron wheat. Men trained from boyhood to move as one. When they advanced, nothing on earth could stand before them. For 150 years, from Alexander to Antiochus, the Phalanx ruled every battlefield. No force had broken it. No army had survived it. But Rome brought something different. Not the long spear, but the short sword. Not the rigid line, but flexible maniples. Not mass, but movement. The legion had crushed Carthage, broken the Macedonians at Cynocephalae, defeated every enemy it faced. Now 30,000 Romans marched toward Magnesia. Outnumbered more than 2 to 1, yet they came without fear. With them rode Eumenes Topu, king of Pergamon, young, ambitious, brilliant. His kingdom sat on Antiochus's border. He had begged Rome for help when Antiochus threatened to swallow him whole. Now he brought cavalry, auxiliaries, local knowledge. He knew these plains. He knew Antiochus, and he wanted revenge for every insult, every threat, every burned village. For a week both armies stared at each other across the plain. Antiochus camped on Mount Sipylus, his position strong, his walls high. The Romans camped 6 miles away, beside the river Hermos. Each day the Romans offered battle. Each day Antiochus refused. He knew the strength of legions. He had heard what they did to Philip of Macedon. He waited, hoping winter would do what his army might not. Then disaster struck the Roman camp. Africanus, the great general, the undefeated legend, fell sick. Fever took him. He could not rise. Command passed to Gnaeus Domitius Ahenobarbus, a capable officer but no Scipio. Antiochus heard the news and smiled. The gods had spoken. The time had come. He gave the order. Tomorrow they would fight. December morning broke cold and grey. Mist hung over the plain like a burial shroud. You could barely see 100 paces ahead. The river Phrygios flowed dark on the Roman left. The river Hermos guarded their rear. Between the rivers stretched flat ground, perfect for cavalry, perfect for elephants, perfect for death. Antiochus deployed his army like a wall of nations. On his right, nearest the river, he placed himself. 3,000 cataphracts in armour so thick arrows bounced away. Behind them, the elite cavalry, the silver shields, the companions of the king. His plan was simple. Break the Roman left, roll up their line, crush them against the river. In the centre stood the Phalanx. 63 units, each 1,000 men, their pikes lowered like a forest of death. Between each unit, war elephants. Massive beasts from India, towers on their backs, archers in the howdahs. They looked invincible, they looked like gods. They looked like Alexander's dream made flesh. On the left flank, Antiochus placed his secret weapon. Scythe chariots, 4 razor-sharp blades jutting from each wheel. Horses bred for speed and fury. Behind them more cataphracts, Arab archers on camels, Mysian slingers, Galatian infantry. It was a force that had conquered empires. Today it would face Eumenes. The Romans formed their traditional line, 3 rows of infantry in the centre. Hastati in front, Principes behind, Triarii in reserve. On their right, Eumenes commanded every horse they had. Pergamene cavalry, Achaean horsemen, Roman riders, missile troops. On their left, just 4 squadrons, 120 men. The river would have to do the rest. It was thin, desperate, but it was Rome. In the mist, neither army could see the other completely. Antiochus sat on his horse, surrounded by his guards. He looked toward the Roman line, invisible in the fog. He thought of Alexander at Gaugamela, of Darius fleeing before Macedonian fury. Today, he would be Alexander, and Rome would be Persia. He raised his sword. The horn sounded. The army began to move. On the Seleucid left, the scythed chariots burst forward, wheels spinning death, horses screaming. They came like a nightmare made real. The ground shook. But Eumenes did not flinch. He had seen chariots before. He knew their weakness. He gave one command. His archers raised their bows. His slingers whirled their stones. Fire. The sky darkened with the arrows. Thousands of them. Lead shot whistled through the air. The horses shrieked. 1 fell, then 10, then 50. The chariots spun out of control. Blades cut their own riders. Horses crashed into each other. Some turned and fled back into their own lines. Chaos replaced order. Terror replaced confidence. The charge collapsed before it began. Behind the broken chariots, the Seleucid cavalry tried to form, but the camels panicked at the noise. The cataphracts could not see through the dust. Eumenes struck. His cavalry thundered forward. Pergamene horsemen crashed into the stunned enemy. The Galatians fought hard. The Cappadocians tried to rally. It did not matter. The entire left wing broke. Men fled. Horses trampled the fallen. The scythed chariots had doomed them all, but on the right, glory awaited. Antiochus led the charge himself, 3,000 armoured horsemen behind him. They struck the Roman left like the fist of God. The Latin infantry tried to hold. They could not. Steel met flesh. Horses crushed men beneath hooves. The Romans broke. They ran toward their camp, desperate, bleeding, defeated. Antiochus roared with joy. He had won. Just like Alexander, he pressed forward. Victory was his. He chased them all the way to the Roman camp. His cavalry thundered after fleeing legionaries. Blood and dust filled the air. But at the camp, a tribune named Emilius rallied the survivors. They formed a desperate line, shields locked, javelins ready. The pursuit stopped. Antiochus tried to break through. He could not. Minutes passed, then half an hour. The battle was moving on without him, but he did not know it yet. In the centre, the Phalanx began its march. 16,000 men moving as one, pikes lowered, war drums pounding. The elephants moved with them, massive and terrible. To the Romans watching, it must have looked like the end of the world. Nothing could stop that wall. Nothing had ever stopped it. But the Romans did not run. They held their ground, and they waited. The Phalanx advanced, but it advanced alone. On the left, Eumenes had already crushed his opposition. His cavalry turned inward. On the right, Antiochus chased ghosts at the Roman camp. The Phalanx had no protection, no cavalry screen, no wings, just the centre, grinding forward, unaware that death rode toward them from both sides. Domitius saw the opening. He ordered the attack. From the front, Roman legionaries hurled their pila. Javelins tore into the Phalanx. Men fell. Gaps appeared. From the right, Eumenes charged. His cavalry slammed into the exposed flank. The phalanx tried to turn. You cannot turn a phalanx. The formation held, barely. But the elephants began to panic. 22 elephants stood between the phalanx units. Roman light troops swarmed them. Arrows, javelins, stones, fire. The beasts screamed. One turned, then another. They stampeded into their own men, into the phalanx. Pikes shattered. Men were crushed. Formations dissolved. The perfect machine of Alexander's wars broke apart, and when it broke, the legions poured through. What followed was not a battle, it was butcherbari. The phalanx, designed to fight forward, could not defend from all sides. The long pikes, unstoppable in formation, became useless in chaos. Roman swords found flesh, short, brutal, efficient. Men died by the hundreds, then thousands. Some tried to fight, some tried to run, none succeeded. The phalanx, invincible for 150 years, died that morning on the plains of Magnesia. Antiochus finally turned from the Roman camp. He had won his flank. He expected to see victory. Instead, he saw hell. His left wing gone, his centre slaughtered, his elephants running wild, Romans and Pergamenes cutting through his army like farmers harvesting wheat. He could not believe it. His army, his empire, his dream, all dying before his eyes. He tried to rally his men. Some followed. Not enough. The Romans were already attacking his camp, his treasuries, his family. He could either die with glory or live with shame. He chose life. He turned his horse east and rode. Behind him, his army collapsed completely. 10,000 dead, perhaps 50,000. The sources differ, but the truth does not. The Seleucid Empire was finished. When the sun set that day, the field was silent. Bodies lay in drifts. The phalanx that had never broken lay broken forever. Roman soldiers walked among the dead, checking for life, finding little. The camp had fallen. Treasure, standards, weapons, all of it Roman now. The battle had lasted perhaps 5 hours. In that time, an empire ended. Antiochus fled to Sardis, then to Apamea. He sent ambassadors. He begged for terms. Rome's answer was brutal. Surrender all lands west of the Taurus Mountains. Pay 15,000 talents of silver. Hand over your war elephants. Give us hostages. Destroy your fleet. And give us Hannibal. Antiochus agreed to everything. What choice did he have? Magnesia had destroyed more than his army. It had destroyed his future. Scipio Africanus, still weak from fever, heard the news. They brought him the captured standards, the enemy banners, the proof of victory. He did not celebrate. He knew what this meant. Rome had crossed into Asia and won. The world had changed forever. The age of Alexander was over. The age of Rome had begun. He looked east toward the horizon and felt no joy, only weight. Eumenes too received his reward. Rome gave him most of Asia Minor. His kingdom grew overnight from a city-state to a regional power. He had gambled on Rome and won everything. But he also knew the price. He was now Rome's creature, a client, a vassal in all but name. Rome's generosity was also Rome's chain. He would never be free again. In 188 BC, the terms were finalized. The Treaty of Apamea carved up the Hellenistic world. Antiochus lost everything Alexander's heirs had built in the best. Rhodes grew, Pergamon grew, Rome grew. The Seleucid Empire shrank back to Syria, Mesopotamia and Persia. Never again would it threaten Europe. Never again would it matter. Magnesia had seen to that. 2 years later, Antiochus died. Some say he was killed trying to rob a temple in Elam. Others say he simply gave up. The man who called himself the Great died hunting scraps to pay Rome's tribute. His son inherited an empire that was already a ghost. Within decades, the Seleucids would collapse into civil war. Within a century, they would vanish completely. Rome would inherit everything. Magnesia did not just defeat an army, it defeated an idea. For 150 years, since Alexander crossed the Hellespont, the phalanx had been the supreme weapon of war, unbeatable in open battle, invincible in formation. But at Magnesia, flexibility beat rigidity. Movement beat mass. The sword beat the spear, and the legion proved itself the future. The battle marked the beginning of the end for the Hellenistic kingdoms. Macedonia had fallen at Cynocephaly. Now the Seleucids fell at Magnesia. Soon Egypt would bow too. One by one, Alexander's heirs would kneel before Rome. The dream of restoring his empire died with Antiochus. No one would try again. The age of the Greeks was ending. Rome learned something at Magnesia. They learned they could beat anyone, that their system worked, that their legions were not just good but superior. From that day forward, Rome stopped asking permission to expand. They took what they wanted. Greece, Asia Minor, Syria, Egypt, all of it. The Mediterranean became Roman because Magnesia proved it could be nothing else. Today few remember Magnesia. It does not have the fame of Cannae or Zama. No poems celebrate it. No monuments mark the field. But it changed the world more than most famous battles. It ended an age. It began another. And it proved what every general must learn, that the past, no matter how glorious, cannot defeat the future.